Good evening, and thank you for joining us for the special Christmas Eve episode of Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And I'm Jenna Browder. Well, this Christmas, Christians around the world will celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ.
And as CBN's Chris Mitchell reports, in the place where it all began 2,000 years ago, things look much different due to the coronavirus.
Normally at this time of year, Manger Square here in the heart of Bethlehem and next to the Church of the Nativity would be filled with tourists and Christian pilgrims. But in the town where Jesus Christ was born, it's much different during the year of COVID.
There's going to be no celebrations. There going to be no 24th, the normal year that you have covered every year, the parades and Boy Scouts and music in the streets and everything.
Bethlehem this year is a tourist town without tourists.
Since COVID started in March, the tourists go out from Bethlehem. Until now, we don't see any other tourists. The situation here is very sad. No tourists at all. People are sitting at home waiting to open a new page when this disaster will be finished.
Christian artisans here in the Bethlehem Star Olive Wood factory have certainly felt the impact.
I am suffering here also in my factory. You see that I have here 14, 15 people works in my factory. I did not send any of my people home. I left them here. All of them are working in the factory, just at least to get some income in the end of the week.
That's where Arts a Box comes in, a Jewish company designed to bring the Holy Land to Christians in North America.
Israel has such strong significance to so many people, so many different faiths, but about 95% of Christians in North America, for example, never actually make it over into Israel. And we spend our lives learning the Old Testament, the New Testament, all the stories and the people and the characters and also the life of Jesus. You have no way to actually bring these stories to life.
An Arts a Box subscription provides gifts from the Holy Land 4 times a year, made locally by folks like Jamil Hosh. Last quarter featured Nazareth, and this quarter, Bethlehem. It's their way of bringing the Bible to life.
That coupled with COVID, which hit earlier this year, and all these small businesses and artisans are really suffering because they really rely on tourism. So we decided to create Artsa, which delivers the experience of Israel to your doorstep and takes you on a journey through the land. And at the same time, we help support all these small businesses and artisans and these incredibly talented people, especially now when the tourism isn't coming here.
That includes Jamil Hosh, his family, and factory.
Artsa, I make him 2 big orders, and now they are selling my products in the United States. They help me a lot. Maybe I work about 6 or 7 weeks in summertime to Artsa orders. It was very helpful, and it's still in the beginning. I am expecting next year to be more orders from Artsa and to work with more items.
In Jerusalem, just a few miles from Bethlehem, COVID also hit Christian businesses. Many of these alleys would be filled with tourists, but now many of these shops in the Christian quarter of the old city are shuttered and closed.
Local business, it went down to zero. Just like one day, boom, it has been very difficult, and I have many people who also work with me in this business, and it has been very difficult for them.
Zach Mishriki is a third-generation Christian shopkeeper in Jerusalem's old city.
Since COVID started, I had a challenge, what is next? And as soon as COVID started, I started investing online. I sell many Christian items that was produced here in Jerusalem to bless the whole world and make them closer to God.
From olive wood nativity sets to coins from the time of Jesus and anointing oil, Mishriki offers a wide range of Christmas gifts. He feels it's important for Christians around the world to support their brothers and sisters in the Holy Land.
Christians in the Middle East, and especially in the Holy Land, now we're only 1% of the population here, and supporting them is supporting the Holy Land. Supporting them is supporting, the existence of Christ here.
Shimel sees his efforts through Arts a Box as a way to fulfill the Jewish concept of Tikkun Olam, healing the world.
We're not just here to help Jews, we're here to connect and help everyone with the world, regardless of their faith. That's a very Jewish value, which I think is very important. And secondly, the Christian support for Israel and their connection to Israel is just overwhelming and incredible. So if there's a way on a personal level to give back to that, then I think that's very important as well.
Both Arts a Box and Zach's online store want to provide a meaningful Christmas.
Buying, gifts that has meanings, and made by Christians on the land, and it really support families in the land. We want to bless them back.
We really hope that brings people a lot of Christmas joy, and to celebrate your Christmas with Christmas ornaments from Bethlehem, made from olive wood as well, and from all these beautiful products from the area, which is the story of Christmas, we think people really enjoy it, and we hope people really do.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Manger Square, Bethlehem.
Beautiful scenes there in Israel. Thank you so much, Chris. Well, this time of the year is often referred to as the season of giving, and giving back is the purpose of an aviation ministry called Judah One.
Yeah, this fleet of small planes transports missionaries and their cargo around the world. But its founder has an even bigger aspirations. As Caitlin Burke reports, he wants Judah One to be the world's first Christian airline.
On. Standby pump on. APU door open.
At the Shreveport Regional Airport is an aviation ministry dedicated to fulfilling the Great Commission.
We give wings to missionaries. The Great Commission tells us we go to all the world and preach the gospel to every creature.
Judah One has a hangar full of small planes and plans for a commercial fleet, able to transport missionaries and their cargo around the world.
We're able to get out in the mission field to take smaller teams, 12-member teams, 10-member teams such as that, taking them in the mission field. But in the future, once we get our certification, the 125 certification for the large plane, then we can carry the larger teams of up to 136 with our MD-83 and 17,000 pounds of cargo. And of course, we can go anywhere with those.
When Hurricane Dorian hit the Bahamas, Judah One made it possible for CBN's Operation Blessing to reach and help storm victims.
In the case of a natural disaster like happened with Dorian, we need to be in there quickly. That was Operation Blessing. They contacted us initially saying, look, how can you help us to get our teams in quickly? And that's where the small jets really come in handy. A lot of times the major airports are not open where they can handle the larger planes coming in.
They not only transported Operation Blessing staff to the hard-hit islands, but also moved pallets full of supplies, including water purification systems, chlorine, disaster recovery supplies, and medical aid.
What do you feel in your legs, right? Blood pressure?
Yes. Judah One started operations in 1994 after founder Everett Aaron says God spoke a calling over his life.
I see hundreds of these airplanes lined up as far as you can see. They're full of food, medical supplies, Bibles. The engines are running on them. I can see the crew in the cockpit. I can see the flight attendants inside the plane. These planes are ready to go. And I get super excited because, I knew in my spirit these planes are missionary aircraft, and they're taking supplies into the mission field.
He saw missionary teams lined up outside the planes, but no one would board. Aaron says he could feel a grieving of the Holy Spirit, so he asked God why no one was moving.
And the Lord spoke, and he said, none of these people, and when he said none of these people, it wasn't just the missionaries. I saw the pilots on the planes, the flight attendants, the mechanics that maintain the planes, everybody that's associated with doing this stuff. He said, none of these people can do what they're called to do until you get the airplanes. This is my call in your life.
Aaron hopes that 2021 will be the year that Judah One goes from a private nonprofit organization to the world's first Christian airline.
Becoming the world's first Christian airline is opening doors for us to be able to go anywhere in the world and do anything. But it also is opening doors for us because part of our heart is not just, in being an airline, is not just transporting the missionaries, but by getting into that world of becoming an airline, we want to open our own flight school. We want to be able to train missionary pilots. It opens doors for us to do so many things.
The Judah One motto is your hands, God's love, our wings. So when you're ready to answer the call to go, they're ready to take you. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Denison, Texas.
Thank you, Caitlin. Emmanuel in Iran, the growing response to Christ in the Islamic Republic, when we come back.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
Administering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to cbnnewschannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Well, it's during the Christmas season we most often see the use of the name Emmanuel, God with us. And in Iran today, a growing number of people are turning to Christ even in the face of persecution.
That's right, Jenna. A new survey uncovers a seismic shift in the Islamic nation. Here's CBN's George Thomas.
For 14 days in June, 2 Dutch professors interviewed more than 50,000 Iranians online for an unprecedented survey covering topics from faith to politics to religious life. The authors say they discovered a huge shift that should fundamentally change how we look at Iran today. One major standout from Professors Poiman Tamina Arab and Amar Maliki is that despite Iran's census claims that 99.5% of the population is Shiite Islam, only 32% of their respondents identified as such. The next largest group are the nones at 22%, which led the authors to conclude that Iranians are abandoning religion for secularism.
Broadly speaking, this survey is important because it puts data behind the largely non-empirical argument that analysts have been forced to deal with, which is that Iranian society is less religious. This survey, this data, proves that Iranian society is exceptionally less religious.
Approximately half of the population reported losing their religion. 60% said they do not pray anymore. Younger people reported higher levels of dissatisfaction with religion, and an overwhelming number of respondents were critical of authorities using strict Islamic laws to govern daily life. For example, 72% of those surveyed opposed the law mandating all women to wear a hijab, the Islamic veil covering. And when the authors dug a little deeper on questions central to that faith, even less numbers believed in the core tenets of Shia Islam. Only 37% believed in life after death. 30% believed in heaven and hell. An even lower number, 25%, believed in the coming of their Islamic savior known as the Mahdi or 12th Imam.
All of these trends, the pushback on the hijab, the lack of belief in the coming of the Mahdi, the lack of a willingness to identify with Shiism, the willingness to identify with other faiths, are all a result of politics in the past 40 years of the Iranian government. And as the Islamic Republic has tried to shove religion down the throat of Iranians to mask their authoritarian grasp on power, you've seen Iranians contest their authoritarianism by contesting faith itself.
The survey also revealed that as Islam diminishes, Christianity is growing. 1.5% of those surveyed identified themselves as Christian.
And that is compared to about 30 years ago being less than 1%. That less than 1%, everybody thought it was less than 0.5%.
Mike Ansari of Mohabbat TV, a ministry that broadcasts the gospel into Iran, tells CBN News the survey is significant because it lends credence to what mission groups have been saying for years.
This data is important because it's indicative of the fact that in the country of Iran, in the midst of persecution and Islamic rule, Iranians are turning their back to their faith, to their institutional faith, and receiving Christianity as a new faith.
Iran is one of the most dangerous places for Christians and other minority faith groups. Non-Muslims are often arrested or severely tortured for sharing or practicing their faith. Yet, in a sign of changing times, the survey found that 41% of respondents believed all religions should have the right to public proselytizing, and around 54% said it was a good idea for their children to learn about other faiths in school. George Thomas, CBN News.
All right, thank you, George. Well, meanwhile, in Israel, a new discovery reveals more about how people lived during the time of Jesus.
It involves an underground system located in an unusual place. Here once again, Chris Mitchell.
Even though the Western Wall remains under COVID-19 restrictions, archaeologists are still at work. This latest dig deep underneath the entrance to the Western Wall tunnels uncovered a unique treasure dating back to the time of Jesus.
From the outside, this might look like any modern white door, but open it up, and it's a gateway into history. Like much of Jerusalem, one civilization is built on another. It's even carved into the bedrock.
Most of the buildings that we know from this time period were stone built, were on the street level. And in here we're finding, this really impressive and unique rock cut system.
The rock cut system from Second Temple times was completely covered by a Byzantine-era mosaic floor that was part of a monumental public structure built about 1,400 years ago. It was renovated about 150 years later.
Last January, we started to excavate and we started to dismantle the mosaic itself in order to find the earlier remains to this building.
Dr. Barak Monakandam Givon, the site's co-director, says archaeologists noticed a great attention to detail in the subterranean structure.
And those details showed us that this system was used on a daily basis. It may have been used as a pantry, so people stored their grocery or olive oil or wheat and barley, or what is more possible, that it was used, for daily life. People actually lived here.
The site is located about half a football field from the Temple Mount and only 40 feet from the huge bridge that connected ancient uptown Jerusalem to the Temple Mount.
Basically, what we have here is a window to the way the women, men, and children of ancient Jerusalem during the time of the temple lived. And we're finding here a very unique way of living that was not really familiar to archaeologists working on this time period or in this area.
Artifacts from the dig also attest to the Jewish history here, like this chalk cup. Other finds included the rim of a huge, expensive pot, like the one at the wedding in Cana when Jesus turned the water into wine. The revelation came on the eve of the Jerusalem Day anniversary, when Israel reunited the city and regained control over the Temple Mount just 53 years ago. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, underground near the Western Wall, Jerusalem.
The pandemic and the gospel. A look at how technology is helping smaller churches spread the good news not only this Christmas season, but since the outbreak began, when Faith Nation returns.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5, Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream. The chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities. The chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Tikkun Olam.
This is our nature as a country.
To make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life, how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone.
I was in tears.
Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, but it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com to get your copy today.
Well, welcome back. When the coronavirus pandemic forced churches to close last spring, it made the internet the go-to place for people to still worship together.
It also opened up the potential for worldwide exposure for some smaller local ministries. And as Paul Strand reports, it could be laying the groundwork for a global revival.
Don't freak out seeing all these people jammed together. This was before mandated social distancing began. These worshipers gathered here in Toronto to pray for a global revival that would have greater impact than all that have come before. But how?
Revivals of the past have often been constrained by limits that the next big one may not have to suffer.
When revivals meeting in one location explode into bigger and longer events, they can often burn out the staff. As we see in this pandemic, ministries meeting online aren't confined to church walls. And as the name says, the World Wide Web means a single revival could go global.
And now we're in a whole different world where literally millions of people can watch this happening live online.
Daniel Kalinda's ministry has led tens of millions to the Lord.
You know, I remember reading as a kid in the Bible where it says that when Jesus returns, every eye will see him. I thought, how is that possible? And now it's a very easy thing to understand.
John Kilpatrick was at the center of the Brownsville revival.
Today, with the instant media, there's no telling what God can do in real time all around the world.
Even where powerful governments censor the internet, the digital age lets ministries work around authoritarian regimes.
Even the poorest people on the planet, they're starting to get cell phones.
Computer chips allow amazing miniaturization, like of the Bible.
We used to have to smuggle in paper Bibles. Now we've got chips. If you get caught, you can eat them. And his word now can get to every tongue, tribe, and nation.
Another factor, unprecedented unity now forming allows ministries big and small to all work together.
What the world's rarely seen is Christians getting past their divisions and denominational differences to act in unity.
There's a joining and a linking together of different ministries, of different movements, and even denominations. It's a God thing.
I don't understand why the streams were ever not together. We all have the same focus, the same passion.
John Arnott saw denominational lines fall in the 1990s revival known as the Toronto Blessing.
People came and they didn't care, and nor did we, whether they were Pentecostal or Catholic or Methodist or Baptist.
This will allow what Arnott and Heidi Baker have both prophesied, a revival that'll rush over the planet like a global tsunami.
It's really all of the streams, all of the rivers of the radical lovers of God from all over the planet just coming together. And as we come together, the wave just gets bigger and bigger.
The last great move of God is going to be God moving, where we're not just following a new teaching or doctrine or mission, we're really following the Lord.
In other words, Rick Joyner believes it'll be led by God himself and centered on his son Jesus.
And I think our hearts are going to be caught up and captured by Jesus. All things are going to be summed up in Christ.
The presence of God will descend in a mighty way.
There's nothing in the world like it when the presence of God comes in.
Kilpatrick believes it's what all mankind's been searching for to fill their hearts and souls.
But that presence, that glory is what we're made for. God genetically made us for the glory.
Lila Tarhuan has led intercessors for decades, believing as the world grows darker, great light and revival will arise to counter it.
For the church, our assignment is to push back the darkness so that his presence could come and the glory of the Lord can cover the earth as the waters cover the sea.
Galinda believes this God revival will be bigger and better than the world's ever seen.
That nothing diminishes in God. That something about God's character, he always outdoes himself. The latter is always better than the former.
Paul Strand, CBN News.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
You know, I think as a father, it's my job, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Well, if you feel like there's more Christmas decorations than usual this year, you're right. More people are decorating during the time of COVID, including one of the most famous addresses right here in Washington. This year's theme at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue is America the Beautiful, selected by First Lady Melania Trump. The White House decorations, with more than 60 Christmas trees, 3,200 lights, and 1,200 feet of garland, were designed to serve as a reminder of the true American spirit.
Just beautiful. Well, also gearing up for the holidays is Vice President Mike Pence and his family. The second family unveiling Christmas decorations at the Naval Observatory, where they live, here in the nation's capital. Among the marvels of this year's old-fashioned Christmas theme, 35 wreaths, vintage toys, and more than 1,000 ornaments. It also includes a nativity scene depicting the birth of Christ.
Jenna, you think they're competing there?
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
A little
Both are just beautiful, yeah.
Have a Merry Christmas. We'll see you tomorrow.
Merry Christmas.